Hillary. How are
Hi.
you?
Good. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Thanks so much for joining us on our We Got You Mama Summit. We'll just launch right in. I want to introduce everyone to Hillary Sadler. She is Settler. Sorry, I confused you.
No, you're right. So last name
It's
is
Sadler, right?
Sadler, but it's Baby
Baby
Settler.
Settler.
If you have
Okay.
time for a short story, I can tell you something about that.
Tell me something about it so that it will stay in
So
my brain so I can start calling you the right
Sadler,
last
yes,
name.
Sadler and Settler. So my stepdad actually came up with the name Baby Settler because my husband should have been born like 150 years ago. His dream for us would be that we move to Amish country and like garden with draft horses and grow all of our own food and just like that is not me. I like that. I
Yeah,
like that to be like part of life, but I
sure.
also love the conveniences of modern life. But anyway, my husband is always doing funny things like making toys out of pieces of wood, or it's just, gardening with bees. It's just crazy. So in our family, we are known as the settlers. So instead
Got
of
it.
the saddlers or the settlers. So
Got
when we
it.
were coming up with baby settler 4 years ago, I could not figure out a name. I had all these names and all my family was like, those are terrible names. And my stepdad was like, you should just call it baby settler. And I was like, oh, well, what about baby settler? And he was like, yeah. So anyway, that's kind of where that, because it kind of plays into our family and my husband's ultimate dream of us becoming settlers out west somewhere.
I wonder though if you really put him in that environment, if he'd be with 4 children
Oh,
and
he
right, all
it's a
the things
dream.
he would be like 2 weeks in and be like, "You know what?
Yeah.
Maybe."
Yes. For sure. It's a dream that's just far enough away that he
Yeah,
likes to really act like that's
true.
really his passion, but I don't think he would actually. He likes the conveniences of the modern world as well.
That's hilarious. I love that. I didn't know that story. Well, that's great. Now I know, now it's in my brain how to like say your last name correctly and like, and I'm now imagining your family like in pioneer world.
Yes, and my husband has a huge beard, has always had a huge beard, so he even looks like he
You
belongs
know
in
what?
that.
He's
Yeah,
ready for it.
he's
So we're
ready.
just gonna put him in some film, get him out here in LA. We'll have him audition. We're gonna put him some film and he can live out his dream,
Yes. Oh, he would love
in
that.
Hollywood form.
Yes, there you go, there you go. That sounds more
Awesome. I love that.
realistic.
Well, tell us all about this company, your venture into it. Kind of, I love where you started and how you were like, you know what, I see this gap. I'm gonna do this thing, and then how, how that's going and how it kind of evolved.
Yeah. So my clinical background is labor and delivery nurse. So I had my first baby 12 and a half years ago, and I was not a nurse. Came from a family of healthcare providers, but I had gone to school for business. And had my first baby and just was like, oh my gosh, this is where I want to spend the rest of my career. I want to help moms and babies,
Mhm.
and went to school with the purpose of becoming a labor and delivery nurse and graduated, got my first job as a labor and delivery nurse in a hospital, did that for 5 years. And then I live in the same area that I grew up. So over time, I had my first baby at 23. So it was a little while before my friends started having babies. They waited more to their 30s. And so in the last 4 years, I've really seen all of them come through and have babies. But it started when I was working in the hospital. They'd come in, I hadn't seen them for, over a decade. And then I'd start getting texts from them. Hey, Hillary, like I'm home from the hospital. I have questions about this. And I loved being there for them. But what I found was that there's so many other moms that need that kind of support that's just not available.
Yeah.
And so I created Baby Settler to really to provide the support and resources for moms that really could be this widely accessible. So, whether it's through our book or our Instagram account or our blog or our online guides, whatever, it's widely accessible without the burden of the one-on-one consulting, because there is a lot of support out there for new moms, but whether it's financial burden or even just the burden of getting out of your house and like
Yeah.
actually going to the appointment or going to do things, sometimes that is a huge it's a huge access barrier for a lot of
Mhm.
moms. And so with Baby Settler, I really feel like every new mom deserves to have a nurse friend, but insurance doesn't cover it, or there isn't one available for them in their area. So Baby Settler really fills in this gap that pediatricians and OBGYNs don't fill for many reasons. And I feel really blessed that I have been able to find that my passion aligns with the work that I get to do. And I just absolutely love working with moms and babies. So I am a feeding specialist. So if you think about a feeding specialist, I'm a lactation consultant, but I don't have a chip on my shoulder about formula. I'm also a registered nurse. I'm a fellow mom of 4. And I know that getting adequate quality sleep is, for mom and for baby, is super important. It's like one of the most important things that we can do for our overall health and wellness
Yeah.
for ourself, and then also for our family. And so I really want moms to know and understand that the secret to sleep in the first year of life is really that well-fed babies sleep better. And what that really means is that the quality and efficiency related to breastfeeding and bottle feeding in infancy is a huge piece of the puzzle when it comes to sleep. And I think that that's something that a lot of moms are missing, is just that connection,
Right. And we
understanding
talk
that
about them
connection.
separately so much, right?
Mhm.
Like,
Yep.
let's learn all about the feeding, all about this, and then let's learn all about the sleep and all about this. And I don't know if they're talked about together as much as, it should be, because I mean, don't we all sleep better if we're fed? Just as
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
humans,
And we don't,
adults, right?
yes.
Children.
And you probably didn't
Um,
sleep as well during pregnancy when you had reflux or you were
yeah,
uncomfortable. We don't sleep well when we are uncomfortable. And it's the same thing for our babies. And that is really the missing piece of the puzzle. It's not really just about getting full feeds.
yeah,
Yes, we want our babies to feel full, but you know how if you're over full, or if you are having reflux, or, all the other things that go into being comfortable with feeding, it also applies in infancy.
right. And so when you talk to your moms, do you kind of get them on track, like right from the get-go when it comes to their feeding, when it comes to their sleeping? Do you, wait that like 4 to 6 weeks until their kind of circadian rhythm, like kind of is grown, in their brain? And I mean, that's a whole other study alongside
Yeah, there's
the science in
that's
the
a
brain
whole
and all
nother
that.
time. Yes,
But we kind
there's
of
a
like stick with feeding first, right? Like babies
yeah.
need to be fed and then they kind of sleep when they sleep. And is that something you kind of help educate moms in, like day one to, what it will look like for them day, 95?
Yeah, so you want to have realistic expectations for sleep based on your baby's age and stage. So, in a perfect world, moms would these seeds in their mind, this knowledge would be gained during pregnancy, so that they can go into the postpartum and they already kind of understand, okay, I know feeding affects sleep, I know sleep affects feeding, and we can talk about that a little bit more here in a minute and what that really means.
Yeah.
But yes, feeding is a huge part of it. I would say in the first 6 to 12 weeks of life, if you can nail the feeding part of it and make sure your baby's having efficient, quality feeds,
Hmm.
then sleep follows. Yes, there are strategies such as, having a routine and getting them, but really it is that 3 to 4 month mark when they're able to really have that circadian rhythm and melatonin and all those things that
Right.
are external things that we can, okay, let's add those in now to make sleep better.
Yeah.
But if we haven't really laid the foundation for sleep and feeding early on, then it's just harder to kind of get to that next step when they get older. So in a perfect world, moms have this knowledge before they even
Yeah.
deliver so that they can really start at day one. And it's not stressful because it is just common sense, honestly. Like when you
Yeah.
really peel it back and you really truly understand these concepts, it makes sense. It doesn't feel stressful. It doesn't feel like you're trying to follow this schedule or these rules or these, let me remember that trick that that person told me.
Right.
No, it makes sense to you. Your mind, even in a sleep deprived state, can come up with, oh yeah, like this is what I do here, because doesn't that make sense?
Right. Yeah. Follow your gut. Maybe you know more
Yes.
than you think you do when it comes to, raising these babies. And I mean, it's
Yes.
interesting in another interview that will come up on another episode. A neuroscientist talks a lot about this mommy brain and how like
Hmm.
we trash on it, we don't get enough credit, but like how much our brains are actually learning to
Yes,
keep a little human alive, right? Especially
absolutely.
first time around. It was like we have to learn all these things and we're,
Mhm.
and then all that information that, we are actually doing and completing and processing can obviously make us feel a little cloudy and a little, you know, out of it, which they, call mom brain or that mom fog.
Mhm.
But it's like our brains are growing rapidly
Absolutely.
to just adjust to this, this new life that we're caring for. So along those lines, how I mean, you teach a lot on also how to take care of yourself, how to take care of mom.
Mhm.
Like, how do we juggle that? Like, this is all that's important is this being, but I think we also really need to reel in that thinking and like, we need to take care
Mhm.
of ourselves or we can't take care of these babies.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I have so many thoughts here. I'm gonna try to keep it brief. I think where it really is that we have this picture in our mind of what it means to be a mom.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be different for everyone. But I would say usually it goes something like this. We should know the answers, right? We need to be in control. It's our responsibility to take care of the baby. Or if there's a problem, it's our job to fix it. Or even more, if there's a potential problem, it's our job to anticipate that potential problem and then have a plan for fixing it.
Right.
Like that's probably more realistic.
Mhm.
Um, and then, the other thing is that I think there's this notion that there's a right way to do things and that we should know what that way is and we should be able to do things right. But then it's like, wait, what? Like, how in the world are we supposed to do this thing that we were designed to do with no training at all? Like, maybe we read some books or we, took some classes or whatever, but this is the first time we've ever done this. It's a learn on the job kind of thing. So we've had no training and we have a million voices, whether it's from social media or our friends or our family or your healthcare providers, whatever. They're telling us what we're supposed to do. And we're doing a really good job, or what we're doing is really, really wrong. And we're trying to figure out like what is right and what is
Yeah.
wrong. And it's a mother load. Like really, it's like it can feel so overwhelming. So when I'm working with moms and I try to put out this information on social media, it's hard in short form content. You get like bits and pieces. But I hope that people that find Baby Settler, they get the overarching message that, it doesn't have to, you don't need to know all that stuff. Like
Yeah.
you need to be able to access your resources, but those are not true. Those things that I just mentioned, they're not truths. They're not truths. And so, what I really think about is you need to really think about what you are thinking about and deciding, okay, is this thought really true? Because our mind, and I'm not a licensed clinical therapist, so I'm not trying to step into that area, but I am a registered nurse and I have worked with a lot of moms. And even in my own life, I'm telling you these things, but I practice them myself and I think about them myself. So tips that I have are to really think about what you're thinking about and questioning, is this really true? Is this a true statement? You don't have to know all the answers. There's no way that you can know all the answers.
Right.
There is a lot in parenthood that you cannot control. My sister, she just got married last year and she is excited about starting a family. And she is very type A, even more so than I am. And she is in her late 30s. And it's a huge adjustment and she's already worried about things that are not even going to be in her control anyway. And
Right.
so I am just telling her all the time, there is so much in parenthood that we can wish that we could control it, but we
Yeah.
can't. It's like flying on a plane, maybe not exactly, but I have so much anxiety flying on an airplane. And my husband always jokes with me. He's like, that's because you're like absolutely not in control. And it's so true.
See? Yeah. You're like,
um,
oh, maybe I need to learn how to fly a plane.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And then the other thing is that it really does take a village and you need to lean on your partner, your family, your friends, and the resources that are available to you. You need to really let people help you and just know that the responsibility is not solely on your shoulders. And then the last thing I would say, and this kind of goes to the information overload, and because we are living in If I was a mom for the first time right now, I know I would be so completely overwhelmed because there is a huge amount of information,
Mhm.
and it's really hard to decipher like what is true and what's not true. And so I always challenge moms to always ask why.
Mm.
Ask yourself that question, ask your pediatrician that question, ask anyone who is helping you or giving you advice, ask why, get to the root of things, and then don't take answers at face value or surface level. Like if there is no, if you can't go beyond more than one why and there's not another explanation or it doesn't go deeper, then it's probably not super credible information, or you should really go back to thinking about what you're thinking about because it's
Right.
probably not the most accurate.
And there might be new information that is
Absolutely.
out,
That's a great
right?
point.
I mean,
Yes, for
it's
sure.
different from your first kid to number
Mhm.
4 as it was from
Absolutely.
my first kid to number 3. Like,
Yep.
stay away from all peanuts. Now they're like, feed peanuts to your tiny baby. You know what I
Lather
mean?
them in peanut, I'm just kidding. I don't know if
Right.
that's
Just like
really
bathe them in it,
Yes.
wash their hair with the peanut oil.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
really. We were
No.
kidding.
Yeah.
So that they're not so because now they're seeing, all these allergic
Mhm.
reactions within all these foods for these kids, and so
Yeah.
things can also change. So, I mean, I just within, I talked to a client the other day, I was like, "Well, my pediatrician said, but then the pelvic floor therapist said," and they're
Mhm.
conflicting, and ask more whys, right?
Yeah.
And then accept whatever sits well with you and makes sense in your brain. Um,
Yes.
Right? I think
Yes, that is
that's
key.
all I could tell her was like, "Well, what do you think? What do you feel? Like, let's also
Mhm.
get in touch with, our instincts and our gut." And then she's like, "Well, I really feel like the pelvic floor therapist." Well, I was like, "You're right," because she's also an expert in that field. That is
Right.
not an area in which your pediatrician, your OB, your whatever, I think it was her OB, that's not an area she focuses on, right?
Mhm. Yep.
Not solely, but
Yep.
your PT, that's her world. So you're right.
Absolutely.
You're right. You didn't need to ask me. You knew. And
Yep.
I think just empowering those moms to like, why? Okay, I get it. Now I know. And you can like move forward with that.
Yeah. And I think another good point there is that it's not that your pediatrician or your OB is purposely trying to give
No.
you false information. It's just like they a lot of times, well, number 1, they probably do not have the same time your pelvic floor therapist has to spend with you. I know we also have a private practice in Charleston, and I get to spend an hour with my patients. My pediatrician maybe gets 15 minutes. So
Right.
I get to see a lot more than they do. But also they probably feel like it's their responsibility to give you some kind of answer. And so I think that that is where asking why and doing exactly what you just said, like asking why and then see if they can give you a deeper answer. Because sometimes the answer from them might be, well, that is what Up to Date said to do. Or, I'm not really sure exactly why, but this is what the standard of care is, or the recommendation is according to, the AAP or,
Mhm.
you know, Up to Date. And then you as the mom can decide, okay, you know what? I actually would like to have more individualized care for my child, or I would like to know a little bit more about why this recommendation. And then you take that and you go as deep as you want. And then you feel really good about making a good, confident decision about what's
Right.
important to you.
Right. Yeah. And it's often a field that they're not going out and getting more education in and getting
Hmm.
certifications in, right?
Yep.
Because
Absolutely.
that's a lot of time and effort too for the doctors to get
Yeah.
additional certifications.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I get that. They obviously want what's best. And I think
Hmm.
the more we can encourage these practitioners to refer, I
Yeah.
think
And
the better. Like,
collaborate. Like,
let's
let's
get
work.
some people surrounding them that they can then refer,
Yeah.
their patients and their,
Yeah, that ends
working
up
on that.
being the best
Hmm.
patient care. That's how you really, when you have collaborative care providers working together in a highly specialized way, like each one that's how you really have the best outcome for patients for
Yeah,
sure.
definitely. I love that. So we talked a little bit about the feeding and the sleep and some of these expectations we have um, on, moms, on females, right? Especially just
Yes.
in life. But kind of gearing back towards, because I love the sleep and feeding. And in your course, do you guys teach more on that? Like if someone's like, hey, this resonated with me, how can I learn more? So let's touch on that a little bit. And then also how they can gain access to all you have to offer. Um, I was
Yeah.
someone whose baby was not getting enough, but I was felt like I was feeding her all the time. And then you
Mhm.
know, it's the classic, you take her in. I think they weighed her on every single scale because they're like, that can't be right. Cause she weighed the same as when she was born and it had been 3 weeks or something, right? And they're supposed to be gaining.
Yeah.
And I didn't really hear much about supplementation, and then the latch got all crazy, and then I just felt lost in this world of feeding what I thought I wanted, what, these nurses told me in the hospital,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? Because you're new and this is all new, and you want to feed your baby, but then you're crying because you're, you know, pumping until you bleed and like all these things. And I'm like, I didn't have someone like you to come to and be like, tell me what I don't just can't, like, because I even had a lactation expert come, and she we're not it was not a good fit, and I wasn't in the position to like find someone else, right?
Mhm.
I didn't feel heard or listened to. I feel like I knew my baby, and when I explained like, no, she's not going to do that. No, she's not going to do that. She's okay, do your thing. Okay. And then it is what I said, right?
Oh, yeah.
So
Oh
share us a
gosh.
little bit about that experience and working like with you or your team,
Mhm.
and what that would look like if I, came to you as this mom that's like,
Yeah.
talking and breaking out of this baby and this is what's happening. Like, do they schedule something with you? Do they purchase a course? Do you recommend a
Yeah.
book? Like,
Yeah.
take us on that journey of working with.
Yeah. So there's a couple different ways. So I think just pausing for a second, I think, what you were saying is so true that you really do have to find a lactation consultant that really hears you and that has your goals and your objection, like, so what you want in mind. And
Yeah.
I think sometimes lactation consultants can kind of get stuck in their ways and they go into it with like what they think is best and they're not actively listening. And that's where I do feel like if you can find a registered nurse who is
Yeah.
also a lactation consultant, I feel like that is a killer combo because they are taking their nursing side of things. So, like, as a nurse, we use nursing judgment. Number one, we know there's a lot more to it than just breastfeeding, right?
Yeah.
So, everyone knows that breast milk, there is no debate that breast milk is best for our babies, right? Like, breast milk is made for babies, right? But that is not the only thing. We have to look at the big picture and there you have to weigh like benefits versus risks. And as a registered
Right.
nurse, we're looking at other risk factors like, okay, a baby that's lost more than 10% of their birth weight, like their electrolytes could be out of balance. We're looking at mom's mental health and how that impacts the whole entire family.
Mhm.
Mom's health, like, is she getting sleep? If she's not getting any sleep because she is breastfeeding every 1 to 2 hours around the clock all day long, then she is really at risk for getting sick because her immune system is taking a huge hit. Um, Her mental health, her physical health, like there's just so many things that affect it. And so I feel like what I've seen in real life is when you work and even content that's put out on social media, if you have almost like you're primarily a nurse, but then you're also a lactation consultant and you kind of provide care through that lens where you're
Yeah.
prioritizing your nurse self first and the information you share, and then you kind of deprioritize this agenda that the International Board of Lactation Consultant Examiners really pushes on IBCLCs to follow. If you prioritize your nursing code of ethics and kind of
Yeah.
your role as a nurse over being a lactation consultant, which is what I do, then I feel like you're going to find that person that is really going to actively listen and hear you and communicate with you in therapeutic communication and really get to the root of what you want to do. But that can be hard. So,
But I totally
babies.
understand, because as you're saying this, like my sister-in-law was a labor and delivery nurse
Mhm.
and helped me more on my
Yeah.
pumping and breastfeeding journey than like anyone, right? And so
Mhm.
I was just like,
Yeah.
well, actually, she was the one I ended up calling because
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
get it,
And it's real
get it just a
life.
little bit more. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you just get it a little bit more,
Yeah.
it's not like yeah, so I think because we as moms, we have the desire to do it all and be good at it all. But if you can't do it all if feeding is taking up 80% of your time or your
Yeah.
day or 100% of your mental energy,
Right.
right? Whether it doesn't matter what feeding is looking like, even if breastfeeding is going great from the outside, your baby's gaining weight, there's no issues. If it's taking up 100% of your mental energy and you don't have anything left, then that or if you're chronically sleep deprived, like
Yeah,
that is
absolutely.
not what's best for you
Yeah.
or your baby or your family.
I
So,
wish I had someone sit me down and be like,
yeah.
"It's okay. You can be
Yeah.
done." Like,
Yeah.
you can be done. Like, I gifted myself for my birthday being done pumping my chest
Yes.
out for like 2 ounces a day. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
girlfriend,
Yeah.
like, I
Yeah.
just wanted someone to, like, give me permission. Why I didn't needed permission, I don't know. It was my first time around. She's a new
Yeah.
baby, but,
Yeah.
I just think we need an expert to sit us down and be like, "It's okay.
Yeah.
That is best. Let's find the
Yep.
best feeding plan for your baby that,
Yep.
like you said, involves what you want, and then
Mhm.
let's, work together and come up with a plan and then have someone support you on that journey."
Yep. And then, if your lactation consultant is not willing to talk about sleep and routines in your consult, then I would say run the other way. Like if you
Yeah.
feel like they stop enthusiastically supporting you when you say, "Oh, but I want to establish a routine or I want to prioritize sleep," then that's not the person you want to work with anyway, because sleep is still a huge part of it. And I think, unfortunately, the majority of healthcare professionals, whether it's lactation consultant or other people that are trying to help moms and babies, they don't even understand this piece of the puzzle. And so it's so easy for it's not easy for new moms to figure it out because they're being led to believe that sleep and feeding are not connected. And that's just not true. And
Yeah.
so you asked about how do you find out more information and kind of start figuring out this piece of the puzzle,
Yeah.
because it is in reality, it's a huge, if we're talking about sleep, if you don't talk about feeding, then there's already a huge piece of the puzzle that's missing. So if you're currently pregnant or if you are in the first 6 weeks postpartum, I highly recommend that you start with my book, Babies Made Simple. It really is a great foundation. It's a quick read. I've had moms tell me they've read it in a day. Like it's now, if you're postpartum and you're sleep deprived, you might have to read the same sentence a couple times, and that can be hard. But the book is a great read. It's available on Amazon. Um, or our on-demand guides, video guides. They're available on our website, babyseller.com. You download an app, you're able to watch them, listen to them when you're driving. There's lots of downloadable PDF guides because those are helpful for our new moms. We have an app launching at the end of this summer 2024,
Well,
and it is going to be highly searchable content. So early momming made simple. I mean, you just type in your question and either a video or a guide or something comes up. And then we also do in-person consults. So I offer VIP consults. I only take on a few clients at a time. And what that really looks like is just basically unrestricted access to me via text messaging, voice memos, and I kind of go along with you for 4 weeks, and we just sort of, you can ask anything, but most families want help with sleep. So we figure out, I can support you as a lactation consultant, but I would say more of like a sleep coach and just figuring out the life balance with that. So if you have questions about that, you can send us an email, info@babyseller.com, and we can get you more information on that. I think there's on our Instagram account @babyseller, there's a link in the bio that says join the wait list for the VIP program.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's such a huge important part, and I think really just having knowledge is really helpful so that you can really be the expert of your own baby and you can make really confident decisions and not be easily swayed by social media post or, a passing comment, judging comment by a friend or a family member.
Mhm. Yeah. And just remembering that everyone's journey is completely different, and,
Absolutely.
your best bud that thinks she knows all the things, you
Mhm.
know, maybe that worked for her, but it doesn't work for you.
Yeah,
And so to not place judgment on that, but just really empower
absolutely.
yourself What did you say? What did you to think what you're thinking about?
Yes, to think
I'm
about
gonna
what you're
write that
thinking
down.
about.
I'm gonna put that
Yes.
on my wall.
Think
Girl, you gotta
about what
think what
you're
you're
thinking
thinking
about.
about.
Yes. And I literally do that every day. I'm like, oh
Yeah.
yeah. Like, why am
Yeah.
I
I'm
thinking about it?
I'm
Yeah.
like clinically diagnosed with ADHD. And so it's like I could get
Oh,
very and I can spiral.
yes.
I can, you know what I mean? It takes a lot for me to,
Hmm.
zone in and focus on what is at hand or what's important or from,
Yeah.
to the next. So, I have a lot of tools that I use that, I'm able to feel successful in that diagnosis. But it's that's so important.
Hmm.
What are we thinking about? Let's think what
Yeah.
we're thinking about. It sounds so simple, but like is really important,
Yeah.
especially when we're caught up in this world of mommying,
Yes. Yes.
mothering, mommying.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for chatting with me. Um,
Absolutely. I enjoyed it. Love
you're
talking
gonna
about this.
have more access to Hillary. She has a free gift for you guys. So you're gonna have a clickable link that will be sent to your email with all information on her courses, on the books she has out. Um, and we got you, Mama. That's how I'm gonna end all our taglines. Maybe you should say it too. We got you, Mama.
We got you, mama.
We got you, Mama.
Yeah.
Thanks again, Hillary. We'll see ya.
Bye. See you
Bye.
later.